Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I can confirm that the streaming and the live recording is now live, and it's 9 o'clock. You can start your meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Good morning, councilors. Good morning, members of the SLT, residents, and our extinguished presenters today from the Niagara Regional Police Services. Because I see we have quorum, I call this regular council meeting of Wednesday, October 2nd into session. And I now ask all those that can to please rise, and we'll have our national anthem. Right, thank you. Next on the agenda, at this time, we have the land recognition statement read, and this week, Deputy Mayor Councilor Wink will read it.
Thank you, Mayor. We begin this meeting by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and acknowledging reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous people.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Wink. Next is the approval of the agenda, but before I turn to the clerk, and with council's indulgence, I'd like to relay a piece of correspondence I got this week from a resident. As council will remember, 2 weeks ago, or perhaps a month ago, we purchased the movable speed bumps that we have one set already, and we had a set down on Hay Street that Public Works moved from there and put on Pancake Lane. And I had a resident from Pancake Lane, and I know, Mr. Cook, you also heard from this gentleman. He was very impressed. He's been trying for 18 years to get the speeding issue addressed on his street. And after 3 or 4 days of these speed bumps being transferred from Hay Street onto Pancake Lane, he was ecstatic with the results. And if council will remember, we authorized the purchase of more of these speed bumps. Obviously, we can't put them on the main arteries, but we can indeed put them in other roads throughout the town, and they are impressive. And Councilor Olson, you'll remember that that vote went to council. And do you remember, was that unanimous, sir, or was there someone who voted against it?
I don't actually remember it coming to council or the vote that followed, Mr. Mayor. So,
thank you, Councillor. Anyway, it's great that we have these items, the devices that slow some of the ridiculous speeders down in this town. anyway, I just wanted to bring this to council's attention, that those were indeed, they are effective, and they're getting the results. Councilor Eckert.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and with council's indulgence, I live right there, and I can tell you that the effect has been immediate and severe. It has made it so much safer for people to use that crosswalk where they positioned them. I talked to the workers that were putting them in. I walked over. Good and faithful employees and not willing to take a bribe. They wouldn't even accept a coffee when I offered them. But it is so effective, you can't believe it, the way people slow down. So that was an excellent decision, and they're showing immediate results. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor. I will now go to the clerk, and we will continue on with the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Eckhart. Be it resolved that the agenda for the October 2nd, 2024 regular meeting of council be adopted as circulated. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Thank you. After viewing the agenda, is there any changes, comments on it? Not seeing any. All those in favor? And none opposed. Motion carries. Also, before you continue, Madam Clerk, also like to welcome Councillor Nesnick, who's joining us today on Zoom. Good morning, Councillor. To the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are now on the disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof, if you'd like to call for any.
Thank you. After viewing the agenda, does any councillor have a pecuniary interest and general nature thereof to declare? I see none. Please note that, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have so noted. We are now on our presentations and delegations. We do have a presentation this morning from the Niagara Regional Police Services, and we do have Chief Forty and Inspector Dave Gomez here for their presentation. The gentleman would like to come to the podium and present.
Gentlemen, you have the floor, and Chief, I want to personally thank you. We met about a month ago, and I requested, I didn't realize that we were going to get the top dog of the force here. Thank you for showing up, and thank you for making a presentation to this council. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Your Worship, and Council, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to come here today. Before I introduce the Chair, Vice Chair, Deputy Chief Poslovich, and Stephanie Sabrin, our Manager of Corporate Communications, I feel I would be remiss if I didn't make some comments with respect to your opening comments. And as I listened to you talk about the impact of kind of civil engineering and community planning and the immediate impact on people driving above the posted speed limit, putting potentially pedestrians and other drivers at risk, it occurred to me, well, wow, that's an excellent example of a community coming together and finding solutions to problems that sometimes end up falling to us when there's a collision involving a person or vehicles with significant injury. So thank you for your meaningful engagement in significant issues and trying to find a solution and being successful. And the other thing I think I would be remiss if I didn't comment on, I've also, in addition to speaking with yourself, Your Worship, I've had an opportunity to participate in meetings with your CAO and other CAOs across the region. And I've also had the opportunity to participate in several meetings with Chief Limburner. And both the Chief and Dave are not only leaders in your community, but they're leaders amongst their peers. So I thought I should also comment on the leadership of the Chief and the CAO.
Thank you.
So having said that, it's my pleasure to introduce, I've got Deputy Chief Waslovich to my extreme right. He oversees operations. Stephanie oversees corporate communications. You're going to hear from Dave Gomez. And then I've got our Chair and Vice Chair that are also here as well, Jennifer Lawson and Narai Kapsavanu. And I think by virtue of their being here, it's an expression of their support for us and their interest in making sure that we're meeting the needs of the community as we try to engage in a meaningful way to hear community concerns and then try to work together to find solutions that meet everybody's best interests. So having said that, I'll pause and I'll invite Inspector Gomez to the podium. He'll speak about some of the local issues, and then after that presentation, if you have specific questions about local issues or about broader issues, Deputy Chief Waslovich or myself or Inspector Gomez would be more than happy to answer those questions. So
Thank you.
Again, thanks again for having us here, Your Worship.
Well, thank you again for making the presentation. We all appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Thank you very much for having us here today. As Chief says, I'm Inspector Dave Gomez. I'm the 3-district commander, so I oversee, of course, Welland, Pelham, and Grimsby and Port Colborne as well fall under my command. Simply put, we're going to bring up our presentation here. If we can go to slide 1. So this is our mission statement. So this is our guiding principle, if you will, right? The Niagara Regional Police Service is dedicated to serving and protecting residents and visitors within the regional municipality of Niagara. In partnership with the community, we shall provide quality policing services with integrity, diligence, and sensitivity. Next slide, please. This slide here is a quick overview of our current organizational structure. Much like many other large organizations, it shows the scope of services and the areas of expertise within the Niagara Regional Police Service. From a uniform perspective, we have 772 sworn members as part of our authorized strength. On the civilian side, we have 321 members. Breaking down our organizational chart further, I wanted to give you a snapshot of the various police programs that we have here in Niagara, from executive services, district operations, which is our front line, as well as operational support services. Investigative services are resources above and beyond the number of specifically assigned patrol officers in uniform. They're able to assist with more complex needs and investigations, such as special victims units like our domestic violence unit, our child abuse unit, human trafficking, and fraud. And I will speak a little bit more about fraud later in the presentation. As well, we also have our emergency services, which include units such as our K-9 tactical officers and traffic enforcement officers, just to name a few. Most members of the public only see really the frontline uniformed officer driving within the community and answering calls for service. But at any time, these specialty units can be deployed to assist where appropriate with a tailored response. Further, we also have corporate services, technology services, and operational support in roles such as our 911 communications, our real-time operations center, and our court services. To demonstrate how all these units work together at any given point in time within our region, I'll use an example of a robbery with a firearm call where a suspect may have fled on foot. The call to police starts to our communications unit, where the 911 call is received, it's processed, and it's dispatched for frontline response. Depending on the location of the robbery and the information available at the time, our real-time operations center will immediately look to access cameras available in the area. The frontline uniform response is the initial emergency response. Officers will attend the scene, they'll secure it, they'll tend to any victims, they'll ensure public safety, and they'll look to locate the suspect. Our K-9 unit and our emergency unit would be activated due to the suspect fleeing and also the mention of a firearm. Additional resources may be needed, and members of our traffic enforcement unit, for example, can be called in to assist to establish a perimeter. Our district detectives or specialty detectives would be notified and would attend to investigate. They would interview people, take statements, and canvass the area. Our forensic services unit would be called in to process the scene and any evidence retrieved. Our corporate communications unit would be looped in to ensure that media releases are prepared and respond to any media inquiries. When an arrest is eventually made, the person would be taken into custody, brought to our central holding unit, where they would be processed by police officers and our special constables. As you can see, there's definitely a lot of areas of policing behind the scenes, not to mention our mechanics, the staff at Fleet Services, our IT personnel, responsible for pretty much everything from our phones to cameras to computers, and our finance and human resources personnel, along with our career development, recruiting, and members of our training unit. all who work together to help support our visible response. I'll provide some statistical data for you from Niagara. As we can see, over year, there was a consistent increase in calls for service. However, we'll see in 2023 from 2022, we saw a slight decrease, which can be attributed to some continued proactive and community engagement, things like referrals for more appropriate response, like our Coast Unit, our Mobile Crisis Rapid Response Team, as well as other community service partners that are assisting with the quality of life issues. Next slide, please. So this is more for Pelham, specific to Pelham. So year over year, we consistently see these are the areas where the main calls for service are. Motor vehicle collisions, you can see is far and away probably the top one there. We also see driving complaints, thefts, impaired driving, and fraud-related calls. So these are the top ones in your Pelham area. Next slide, please. So speaking to the fraud, our banker education initiative, this was an initiative developed in December of 2022 in response to the multiple grandparent or emergency scams that we were receiving in Grimsby and West Lincoln. This was, of course, where fraudsters would contact victims, usually elderly victims, by telephone and provide a story that a family member has been in trouble, they're in custody, and they require cash bail in order to be, for assisted to be released. Detectives from our Central Fraud Unit would attended all the financial institutions in Grimsby and met with all the branch managers to increase their awareness of the scams. They were provided with information and documents and encouraged the managers to share with their frontline banking staff to question large cash withdrawals, particularly when it was an elderly person coming in to make these withdrawals. The program was eventually extended to the entire Niagara region, and contact information has been obtained from all of the branch managers, and now our Central Fraud Unit maintains regular communications with the Niagara branch managers in a group email distribution where they keep each other informed on different fraud trends. There was already reference to speeding and issues, so we can see in Pelham in the year 2023 that we were doing our part as well for traffic enforcement. 347 provincial offense notices were issued, along with 91 warnings. We, of course, work together with the Speed Enforcement Speed Alert Project, where we have proactive patrols in the rural areas, particularly in Pelham area. We also partner with the region with their Vision Zero plan, which includes their aim to make roads safer and eliminate injuries and fatalities across the Niagara region. And also we worked with them to establish community safety zones. And you will, of course, know that there's one here in your area on Highway 20 between Rice Road and Pinecrest Court. In addition, and again, hearing the very good actions that were done on Pancake Lane, we'd also encourage anyone with specific concerns to utilize our traffic hotline, which will allow our traffic enforcement unit to conduct proactive patrols in the areas of concern. To address these issues, we have a phone number, 289-248-1060, or you can email us at trafficcomplaints@niagarapolice.ca. And we very regularly look at these information and gauge our enforcement in that way. There's also there's an online form on our public website as well, where people can notify us of their areas of traffic concern. Officers assigned to 3 District Pelham take part in several crime prevention sorry, this is the last slide. Sorry. All right. Yeah, right. So officers assigned to 3 District in Pelham take part in several crime prevention and community engagement initiatives throughout the year. Officers regularly take part in the Lock In or Lose It campaign all year long. And in the warmer months, it involves them including conducting park and premise checks throughout the course of the night shifts in an effort to discourage disruptive loitering and vandalism in parks within the town of Pelham. That's my presentation, and at this time, as the chief has said, if there's any questions, we're here to answer. So, thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. And before I open up the council, if I may, just a few comments. Of course, I see your presentation also at the Regional Council, and I'm amazed at the number of special units that the service has to have anymore. It's just a sign of the times we live in, whether it's human trafficking. Councilor Olson and I were at a homeless seminar yesterday held in Welland by the Greater Chamber of Commerce, and you had 2 officers there speaking, and I believe you'll have to, I think it was with the core unit, and perhaps, and I thought that was pretty impressive how they act. Perhaps you could, if someone's present, that you could give us just a fast rundown on their roles within the community. Is that possible?
Yeah, absolutely. If I miss anything, you guys can help. But yes, I was at the presentation yesterday, so it was Staff Sergeant Bootsma from our core unit that gave that presentation. So hopefully I can cover it as well as he did. But our core unit was established two years ago. It came originally from what was our school resource officer program. So many of you would be familiar with that program, where it was more specific, where we had officers engage with youth through the school system. District school boards wanted to move away from that model, so we had, if you will, we had expertise with all of these officers that had personal experience and know how to engage with community partners, especially in the youth area. So we moved them into the community oriented response and engagement unit. So that is their core unit, and that's where they are now. So we have they're stationed out of the 3 main districts. So one district, the numbers, if I have right, is 10. I think 10 officers. There's, I think, 8 officers out of 2 district, and then we have 5 officers out of 3 district. And so that's their main role and purpose is they're our first response with community partners. They're really pulled in all different directions. They help us out with, there's homeless issues. That was the topic yesterday, and they're very, very involved in helping with those issues, helping and supporting our members. We certainly don't arrest our way and force our way out of these issues, but they work with that. They're working with situation tables now to help with people that disadvantaged people and help them in those ways. And then they help in other ways. They'll be our officers that we send to certain protests and demonstrations as well, right? So they do bike patrols and they will engage with youth groups as well. So hopefully that wasn't a rambling response, but if there's any other.
And as you say, yesterday's meeting was dealing with homelessness, and your troops also will go into a community, a spot in any community, and help them with if they have to change landscaping to keep homeless from congregating in any one spot. And there's also, I didn't realize this, and I don't know if this was a new law, but when you try to move a homeless person, you have got to, society now wants us to make sure we have a placement for that. You just can't say move along. It's now, you bring in other government services and try to have a home or a place for this homeless person to go to. I thought that was that's maybe something that most people don't realize, that society is taking responsibility for the homelessness and then trying to get them into shelters. So I just it's amazing what your service does in the community. It's not just writing parking tickets, that's for sure. Those days are long gone.
They'll do that too. They will.
Yeah. Exactly. I now open it to council. Any questions or comments on the service? retired Inspector Council Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, you know you're old when. Two young fellows are here before us today that I remember the day they started. And I'm extremely proud of you guys. And Chief, you picked two good ones. And I'm not surprised you're in the positions that you're in today. It's funny how you recognize people at a very young part of their career that they're going to move on. And you guys certainly have achieved the top, so congratulations. As anyone knows, I'm extremely proud of the Niagara Regional Police Service, and I'm extremely biased towards you in a good way. However, I'm not above keeping you accountable, which I've had some meetings with both you and Deputy Chief Wasilowicz. Chief Forty mentioned that it's a community involvement, and if you go back, I don't want to give you a history lesson, but I mean, the principles of policing is the community is the police and the police is the community. And the police can't do it alone and the community can't do it alone. And the chief referenced things that we're doing around town here, traffic calming measures, in a great, excellent job that our public works department's doing in that area. However, bottom line it comes down to is at some point in time there needs to be enforcement. And I've had discussions with you and I've had discussions with the deputy. And I wonder if you could just comment on specifically you, Inspector, about the relationship between, we're part of 3 District Welland. What are you doing to ensure that traffic initiatives in Welland also extend up here into Pelham, because we are part of you? And then perhaps to the deputy, could comment on the Directed Patrol Unit and what they're doing up here in Pelham to help us out with this issue.
Sure, I guess, Pelham is definitely part of our 3 districts. That's the way we run our operations. We are, so we do, I know you are aware that we have an officer that is assigned to Pelham regularly, but we do analysis on the hotspots in Pelham where I have an analyst who works in 3 districts, and I think I've spoken to you about this. We can certainly look at the data and see where the problem areas are. I recently had Lillian, she's our analyst. She produced a heat map, if you will, for like MVCs and where the problem areas are in Pelham. And I don't have it with. I have a hard copy of it with me, but I can tell you right now, this intersection right here is a big red blot on this heat map, and it extends down Highway 20. So we can look at things like that. We can look at the data and we can see where the problems are. But we also accept, like, when you speak to us or when people contact our traffic hotlines, and we will deploy our officers from Welland if necessary, including our core officers, to enhance with the one officer that's here. And we'll go to these areas that have been identified as being problems. The data shows us that, and we will do enforcement, and we will try and make Pelham safer in that way. Hopefully that answers.
Yeah. And then, so,
Sorry.
Chief, hockey injury there. Councillor Eckert, I appreciate your kind words to start off. So as far as we do with our traffic enforcement unit, which is specifically assigned to addressing traffic issues around the region, so we do have competing, municipalities, and everyone has their own concerns and unique to each municipality beyond just speeding and high frequency intersections where there might be collisions. But as far as how our traffic enforcement unit can support the community here and 3 District with Inspector Gomez, is when we do receive the different concerns, complaints, the different avenues that Inspector Gomez has identified, we will produce basically a list of areas that we have to hit off with our members, and they will specifically target high collision intersections, high speeding or roadways, etc. And then they'll rotate that around the region. If we identify an area that is becoming a bigger issue than others, obviously that's going to get more attention, but this traffic enforcement unit is here specifically to assist our 3 district officers and specifically our Pelham officer. And as Inspector Gomez had referenced, we have the officer assigned specifically to Pelham, but we also have our Welland officers that are nearby. So when we do initiatives out of 3 districts, specifically not even involving our traffic enforcement unit, at shift briefing, the sergeant will identify, say, this is an area we need to be addressed. Certain officers will go down and from Welland, so they're not staying at the border and not crossing the border. They will come in here and support the Pelham officer, ensure that they're doing the enforcement or addressing any issues that have been identified. So I do encourage again that if there are areas that obviously you're not going to obviously see the officers out there on a daily basis, at least our traffic enforcement unit, because of competing interests. But if you do provide the concerns and use the avenues that Inspector Gomez has identified, the officers will get up here and address those concerns for you. I'm not sure if that answered your question, Mr. Eckert. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I can tell you that the Directed Patrol Unit was up here in July after our meeting, and they set up at the corner, the intersection of Brewerton and Haste. And just to let people know, in 2 days, they gave out 38 stop sign violation tickets. People are blowing through there at 40 kilometers an hour, and they did an excellent job. And I noticed now on my way to the golf course that people are stopping at that intersection. So that was a great job. And I also noticed the other day that there was radar enforcement going on Pancake Lane. This was prior to the temporary bumps going in by Cherry. So I was pleased to see that as well. And I would encourage that those efforts continue, and I know they will. And thank you very much for your service, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
I was just going to add one more piece that you kind of reminded me, Councillor Eckert. Just with the enforcement too, one of the things that I was impressed with when I was speaking with our individuals in our traffic enforcement unit is the use of technology. And so the intersections that Councillor Eckert referenced, one of the pieces that we're trying to do to leverage technology and to assist us with road safety, et cetera, is we have a drone. We call them RAPAs, but remote operated aerial systems. But we have a drone unit within our organization, and what we can do is do aerial photos, so when people are not stopping at stop signs, et cetera, we're actually getting footage of these individuals. So when we do go to go to court and have these tickets prosecuted, we have additional evidence to use in that way and hold people accountable for their driving as well. So I just thought I'd add that piece.
Thank you. And before I go to other members of council, I'd also like to say that I had residents identify a speeding problem out on Weber Road and Victoria Avenue. I had 3 or 4 residents phone me up. I phoned that phone call, and 3 days later, I had those same residents phone me up and say, thank you very much for sending the patrol cars out. People were going 140, 150 Ks down Victoria Avenue at will, and they got some pretty hefty fines, and I'm sure they're slowed down for a while at least. So the number works, and whenever I get phone calls from a district community, I tell them to phone that number, and also and I believe that if it comes into the town, we automatically forward it to the station, Madam Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that is correct. If residents do contact the clerk's department, we will contact the regional police as well.
And whenever I get a complaint, I talk to that citizen. Get your neighbors to also make a phone call, because the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and like you guys, you people respond, and yeah, the problem gets solved, and we really appreciate that. Thank you. Other members of council? Oh, I'm sorry, the chief?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. What I heard the councillor say, or Councillor Eckert say, and our 2 members respond, is that I'll just try to wrap it up in a concise answer, if I could, is that at the local level, we have police officers patrolling the community. But in addition to that, we have regional police officers that are specialized, our traffic enforcement unit, that deal with issues across the region. And what that allows for is scalability. When we have an issue in one community, we can send multiple resources to it, as you referenced, to try to eliminate it in a very professionally aggressive manner. And we've seen that in other instances as well. For example, we had some residential break-and-enters in Pelham in 2 separate communities, and also in Welland. And the persons committing those offenses were from outside the region, which really underscores the notion that crime knows no boundaries. So it doesn't stop at Welland or stop at Pelham or Grimsby or Lincoln or West Lincoln. It knows no boundaries. And by virtue of our having specialized, centralized units, we can move quickly to try to eliminate those problems and deal with them in a cost-effective way. So I just thought I would mention that you know, there's local policing, if I can call it such, but we also have specialists that move across the region, not only in traffic enforcement, but there are other crimes taking place that are very invasive and really are life-changing for people. For instance, to have somebody come in your house in the middle of the night is horrible. And it's really important that we have the expertise to deal with those types of issues, and we do. And we've done a really great job. So I thank you for your question. Through you, Your Worship, I appreciate the question. I wanted to acknowledge your kind comments about our 2 members. I concur with your assessment, so thank you.
Thank you. I now go to Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, your Mayor. I can age myself because I can go back to prior to the regional force being established in the town of Pelham. The township of Pelham had a police chief plus 2 constables. We had 3 people here all the time in the town of Pelham. Things have changed a lot since then, that's for sure. 2 things that came up, and one is the promotion of the traffic hotline and the reporting system from the police perspective. I'll be very honest, I have to hunt to find it, and yet on social media, there's, as we're all aware, social media things move like wildfire. Tremendous number of people are totally unaware that these lines exist, specific phone lines. If there's a mechanism to encourage its promotion so that people know about it, could really help. It's just, you follow threads and people are going. The secondary part to that is probably the people reporting or commenting about incidences of what I would say is on the verge of road rage, especially with reduced speeds going through the town of Pelham. A number of people are responding that, yes, they're doing the speed limit, but they have somebody riding their bumper, you know, going crazy, and then at the first instance, unsafely passing. Those kind of things seem to be on an uptick, and I'm not sure whether it's reflected in your traffic numbers that you have specifically, because traffic is a big topic. And that's just my general comment to it. I mean, we're all aware of a lot of theft, but it was more as I say, the pre-road rage where it becomes really aggravated relative to that and the promotion of your lines. So just a general comment.
Thank you, Councillor. Any comments from the service?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, through you to the councillor, I can say the social media piece, Steph is here. She's our manager of corporate communications, and I can say we do a lot of information through social media, and we absolutely welcome your comments, and that we can certainly very easily put the message back out again, and we can do that as frequently as we need to get you're not wrong, especially the younger generation. That's kind of how they communicate with each other nowadays, right? So we can easily do that and try and get the word out as best we can on the traffic hotline. Just on the topic of social media, I just one caution my own personal experiences. I found there was actually an issue here in Pelham where I think it was out in Fenwick, and there was like cars being gone through, and then one car was stolen from the area and whatnot. And I was actually contacted by someone and said, and it's all over social media, that in our defense, like the police are doing nothing and whatnot. And sure enough, I look into it, and there was one stolen car in it. So there's a rash of sort of minor thefts and trespasses and things like that. And it was all over social media. And we were getting trashed about not being able to do anything, and it turns out that the only thing that was reported to us was the stolen auto. So so that's my plea, I guess, is to the social media. That's not how we have to be a little old-fashioned. If there's a crime happening, you still have to get it to us in the right way, and the social media is not really the correct way to do that. But the last thing on the road rage, we see that. I see it myself, and I'm sure all just driving on the roads myself. It seems it's not just a problem in Niagara. It seems to be everywhere, and I don't know if the data, like the data that we collect, can actually specify that this was a road rage incident, right? If we catch someone doing something like that, it would probably be reflected in a dangerous driving or careless driving charge, right? So, but you're not wrong. My own sense is 28 years on the job that there's a lot less respect on the roads out there just generally, and I'm not 100% sure how we counter that. And just to plead with people to be patient and moving forward.
Just to top up, thank you for your comments about the social media. So we do often include information on our social media platforms to get that messaging out. It's just the competing pressures of all the various public safety messages that we're getting out, but we can certainly make an effort to increase that.
I guess my comment is I would like to get a copy of the promotion of it because, and I think many of us often belong to a large number of groups that can repost those kind of things. I recognize there's a limitation as how many different things you could post on, but within Pelham, there's 5 different social groups
Absolutely.
that are there, and you see these things, and it would be nice to be able to just upload, if this is an issue, here's the number to call, just as a way of reinforcing that to help people.
We routinely post it on weekends, but I can certainly send it to the town
Yeah,
clerk to
that would
pass
be
along to you
great.
as
Thank
well.
you.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor Wink.
Yes, so on that same vein, is there something that we can do as a community to post that number on our own website? So on the front page, so people know quickly where to go.
Mr. CAO?
Well, the short answer, I'm sure, is yes. I know our comms people are literally watching this, and I imagine I'll have emails or messages in some seconds. But we do have that capacity. However, that is not really the purpose of the municipal website, and people don't normally go to us for that information. I really think that's a good thing for elected officials to do on an individual level. Several you have social media accounts that are widely followed in the community, but we try not to really confuse the minds of we are the local government, we're not the region. Even the region, there's obviously a significant distinction between the police services, which has its own board for a very valid reason, as opposed to generically part of the civil service, if I may. We usually, a couple times a year, will promote things of particular community interest that have some enforcement flavoring to them, but we, broadly speaking, try not to muddy the waters there, because what it does is result in more calls to town hall about issues over which we have no direct control or impact or influence, and we just end up hitting forward. Look at that. I stand to be corrected. Oh, wait, no, there. Okay. I'm not barking up the wrong tree entirely. We can be helpful, and we are periodically already, but I think that this is a very good reason to not interfere, or we're sometimes less helpful than we think we are by that promotion. So on a case-by-case basis, that is something we already do, but I don't know that we fundamentally want to change that, because the town of Pelham and Pelham Engage is not the right place to go to for engagement with Niagara Regional Police. In fact, the police don't want to. It's true, they want to receive it directly, which is exactly what I'm hearing. There are proper communications channels for that, which they work very hard, upon which they work very hard. I hope that's a fair answer.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor? Okay, thank you. Councillor Olson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I would like to say thank you and welcome to the chair of the police board and the senior executive of the police department. You've set a great example for leadership in our community, and I'm really impressed with the way you work together with our EMS and our fire department and all other organizations. And I attended the event yesterday with where the sergeant talked about, the staff sergeant talked about people who are suffering from social isolation, marginalized people. And it came out to me that you have to be persistent in your participation in the community, because people become used to seeing you, and people really welcome that. If you're able to do that, it's a real worthwhile thing, because it makes the job easier, I imagine, going down the road. So I did really appreciate the fact that that participation, but the persistence that becomes an everyday thing when you're involved with people, not necessarily enforcement, but just in familiarization. And it's a soothing thing, I think, for a lot of the people who don't normally make contact with the police. And we're suffering through a place, a time when, after COVID, that changed a lot of things. And I'm pleased to see that the core unit was a response to that, because it's kind of desperate for a lot of people who are lonely and they don't have a way of creating sort of community friendships and social friendships and contacts. So I applaud you for that. Now that the mayor has opened up the topic of speed bumps, not everybody agrees with speed bumps. And I disagree with them on principle, but I don't agree with speeding. I don't want to be portrayed as being pro-speeding or anything like that. So I just want to point that out. But I've now been portrayed very firmly by everybody as pro-speeding, and I'm not. So I'll leave that with you, Mr. Mayor.
We will keep that in mind then, Councillor. To the chief.
Thank you, Councillor, for your comments, and through you, Your Worship. I really appreciate hearing the feedback about our officers engaging in the community. I can tell you that our entire leadership team and our membership recognize the value of kind of a community-centric approach to our service delivery, and we are trying our best to kind of get out of our cars to engage with the community in a meaningful way. As the mayor referenced earlier, nobody ever says we want to see less police. Everybody says we want more boots on the ground, we want to see more of you, and it's not only in Pelham, it's in every community that we attend. So I really appreciate your comments with respect to our efforts. I can tell you that our members will continue to try to engage in a meaningful way. And I agree with you that, the days, as Peel's principles, which were referenced earlier, the days of just a police officer driving around wearing sunglasses, not getting out of the car, are hopefully behind us. COVID was a challenge. It was a challenge for all of us, because it forced all of us to kind of disengage or uncouple from those personal relationships. But we're trying to reinvest and re-engage, so that when we meet the community, we listen, we hear, we learn, and we provide a better service. So I thank you for your comments, and I'm really pleased to hear them, and I'm pleased to hear that our men and women driving around at 2 o'clock in the morning are doing a good job. So thank you. It's important for them to know that, and I will share your comments with them. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Chief. Councillor Olson, you still have the floor.
Yes, thank you, and I appreciate that, Chief. And little things mean an awful lot. The fact that you block off the one lane in front of the Legion on Remembrance Day, that's always appreciated every year. At every meeting that we attend, it comes up, oh yes, we're going to have that safety aspect added to it, because we had a situation that was probably going to become dangerous at some point. But every time something like that happens, it's appreciated and valued by the community. So all of your efforts, and of course, I'll always honor people of service and with the service ethos, and deeply appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And Mr. Cribbs has another point.
So the comms department did, of course, reach out to the magic of this device in front of me. And I'm looking at our website, and the Pelham speeding/traffic complaints, the first section under there is how to submit a speeding or vehicle-related concern, NRPS hotline, referrals to the police as they ought to be. And then every other section of this initiative in the website to go back to Chief Forty's opening comments, are exactly the things that local government should be doing. Pedestrian crossovers and school crossings, neighborhood traffic management policy, what is traffic calming, here's how to bring a petition to town hall. If you want us to look at speed limits, here's how we collect data, the whole shebang. But tools for residents to engage with NRP directly, tools for residents to engage with us about urban design, street design, traffic calming, et cetera, safety. So it's a nice mix of the two, and I hope it's effective because we all have our own roles to play, and we seem, frankly, in my time here, our communications have improved dramatically between each other, and I think we're each doing fairly well in our respective areas of expertise.
Thank you for that, Mr. Cribbs. Any other comments from councillors on the presentation? Not seeing any. One more for myself. The service had a great display of your services at the Penn Center. I believe that was August or July, and I made sure everyone got down there and talked to the K-9 unit. You had the Marine unit and various other I call them toys that you use in your line of work, and it was very encouraging, the number of citizens that were going from post to post, talking to the officers and going right into the equipment. This is what we got, and yeah, again, reaching out to the community so that you're not someone way up here, you're down here at the grassroots level so that people can talk to you and learn what it's all about, and I think that's wonderful.
Thank you, Your Worship, for your comments. Yes, that was a community engagement initiative that was coordinated by Stephanie Sabrin, where one of the things we wanted to do was to help inform the public with respect to many of the services we provide, and some of which you referenced, our K-9, our emergency services, our investigative services, some of the work that's done behind the scenes that nobody ever sees. They're not driving in a police car. They're detectives working on cases involving vulnerable people, things like sexual assault, human trafficking, where we have investigators, domestic violence, that have an expertise in those areas. So I appreciate your comments, and I know that the chair and vice chair were both there as well. I'm sorry, I'm standing in front of them. They were both there as well. And our membership commented on the fact that you were there and that you spoke with them. So, and I say this for the benefit of all the councillors, it means a lot to our people when they have an opportunity to engage and hear directly from yourselves as elected officials who are also engaged in a meaningful way with the community. So thank you for your comments, but thank you for your engagement and your support as well, all of you. I appreciate that.
And I don't see any other comments, so I'll again thank you and members of the service that joined you today. Thank you all for coming out and making the presentation, answering the questions, and we look forward to continued great service from the Niagara Regional Police Service. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Hildebrandt, seconded by Councillor Niznik. Be it resolved that Council receive the policing presentation from the Niagara Regional Police for information. To you, Mr. Mayor, for any discussion.
Okay. Have a good day. Any further comments or comments on the presentation? Not seeing any. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries. To you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to the delegations for the budget open house. I will remind council that the rules of procedure were suspended on May 29th with passing that the budget open house delegations would be able to partake in regular council and that we would be able to have more than just the regular 4. Having said that, Mr. Mayor, our first delegate is Amy Redekop. She's wishing to request new park equipment at Lookout Subdivision. She was waiting in our Zoom waiting room. Ms. LaGrose, can you advise if she is there still? I did receive an email that she had some work pressures. However, council does have her written request. There is a form indicating what she is looking for, and then there were photos as well. If council wishes, we can still receive that information and formally and ask that it be part of the 2025 budget submission. Is council acceptable with that procedure?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, we have a motion put forth by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Kerr. Be it resolved that council receive the presentation and 2025 budget submission from Amy Redekop regarding upgrade of park equipment in the Lookout subdivision for information, and that the request be referred to staff for inclusion in the budget considerations. Mr. Mayor, is there any discussion?
Okay, so obviously, council, when we do get into our budget discussions, we will be going into her presentation even more so. I'll go to Council Deputy Mayor Wink first.
Thank you, Mayor. Looking at her presentation, her written comments, I don't know exactly what new equipment she wants. So perhaps there's something that staff can do to reach out to her to indicate what type of equipment or whether they want basketball courts or whatever. Not really sure what she was getting at on her, just a few pictures.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the clerk's department can reach out to her to get some more specifics and pass that to our treasury department, and they can look into some pricings, if that's acceptable.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Kerr?
Yeah, I support Councillor Wink. Photographs without explanation didn't really tell me what was being looked for. It's nice pictures, but I don't know. The only other thing that I might add to that is that I would encourage that they look at if they're looking for equipment, look for those for accessibility. There are things for children and others that are not as physically abled for park areas, and it's something that I think this town needs to start to look at inclusion if they're going to look at things like that. An example being wheelchair accessible swings, those types of things. They're not inexpensive, but sometimes they're getting missed when we're asking for stuff that maybe should be included and to be inclusive in the community.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor. Any other comments? Not seeing any. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our next speaker is with respect to Special Olympics, the Welland Pelham budget request for bocce ball courts, and our speaker is Greg Belmore. I'll ask that our speaker come up to the podium. Thank you.
And Greg, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, and I'd like to thank you for allowing me to be here today. My name's Greg Belmore. I represent Welland Pelham Special Olympics. We have approximately 25 participants in our bocce program. It runs weekly from June to the end of August, and I'm here to make a request to the town of Pelham for the construction of 4 permanent bocce courts. They would be 12 by 60 feet, constructed of gravel and fines. Similar to the ones that are at Casadante or in West Lincoln or in Port Colborne. Our Special Olympic athletes range in all ages and ability, and for some, the grass course that we're currently playing on at Centennial Park, they have issues with. Some of them just aren't strong enough to get the balls down the courts due to the unevenness of the ground and the depth of the grass. We're requesting the construction of the 4 courts, and the reason we're looking for 4 is that we've split our group up just to get everybody to play and have like where they're not standing around too long. Okay. We would expect that with proper bocce courts, our bocce group would grow bigger as more athletes would be coming out. Bocce is a sport anyone in the community can play. It's simple to learn, easy to play, and requires minimal amount of equipment. It's an especially good sport for those with disabilities and the elderly. On proper courts, it provides light cardio exercise without causing excessive strain. Bocce gives people an opportunity to get out and socialize with other people in the community. As the local population is aging, many seniors are looking for activities to keep themselves active and provide a healthy lifestyle, and bocce is a natural fit for this. Weather permitting, bocce courts could be used for a much longer period than June to August. It's a sport which could be promoted to senior residences, service clubs, and the community in general. Bocce is an activity that could be easily added to your 55-plus program for the town of Pelham. With permanent bocce courts in Pelham, bocce tournaments could be held, promoting the facility even further. And the one thing, it's basically, if you do decide to build bocce courts as a senior, I would have really appreciated if there was some trees in the area with some shade. The summer days are really hot and shade is really appreciated. That's the one nice thing about Centennial Park. I'd like to thank you for your consideration, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Council have any questions on the request? Let's see, Councilor Kerr.
So you're looking at 4 courts. You mentioned that it was 12 by 60. Is the 12 feet the width of just the actual court itself?
It's the width.
It's the width. So when you consider that you need walking space on each side,
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to look at is what the potential footprint is for an effective area. So what would the space be between bocce courts?
If you look at what, okay. Casadante, they've got 4 courts in what would be almost 24 feet. But their courts are extremely long. The area is long. So you've got 2 courts and 2 courts end to end. There's just one board in between 2 courts.
Yeah.
The Vale Center in Port Colborne, they have, I think it's 9 courts. And again, they're all side by side with just basically everybody congregates at either end.
Yeah, I guess my just query is what the footprint might be of this. I mean, that's what we look at for at the ends, on the sides, if there's space in between each court.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking 48 feet, and then you add, let's say, 6 feet in between each one, so you add another 24 feet. I'm just playing in my head the size of it. A comment that was brought to me, and you sort of brought up about the shade, was that in retrospect at the Valley Center, they had actually wished that they had put up some temporary roofing over it because they would get rained out, and they said if they had what I would classify like the garden centers type of thing, where they had they had a steel structure and a removable thing, they could be using them far longer over the year because they weren't, inclement weather wasn't as much, and it would give shade at the same time. So I appreciate your bringing this to us. I'm supportive of it. I know that there's, other than Special Olympics, there is and there's kind of a mini bocce league in Fenwick that shows up on, that was playing for a while on Wednesday nights for a lot of people voluntarily, and they had teams and everything else. So it's not just a singular entity ask on this one. So, and I agree with you. It's something that is expanding more and more. When we look at some of the new sports that kind of come to the forefront, bocce's been around a long time, but pickleball kind of exploded. But I think that bocce, given its due course. So I appreciate you bringing it to us. It just now is going to be the logistics of figuring out what are the expenses to actually install something, and can we make it fit? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions to the presenter? Councillor Olson.
Yes, thank you for the presentation, Greg. I appreciate that too, and thank you for everybody for being here in support too, because see many friends of ours who are there, and I think this is a great idea because it's another sport that we can add. It's the informal league in Pelham and Fenwick, and your work on Thursday night there is there's quite a few people involved in that. And I think it's something that can grow, and it's an outdoor sport, which we're looking for. We don't want to be putting up any more buildings, I don't think. And it's also a support that I think that it has a variety of uses and a variety of people that can be used to support a grant application, which I think will inevitably be the reason how we finance it. So, again, thank you for being here and letting us know about this. It's something that, if we have an opportunity, I know pickleball just came up almost over a summertime because then the grant opportunity was there, and that will happen again. But we have to be ready for this, and we have to come up with some substance to our any application we make, such as size, cost, and usage. So, but keep up the good work on Thursday nights for now.
Okay,
Thank
thank you very
you.
much.
Councilor Nesnick, I apologize. There you are. You've got the floor.
Oh, excuse me, that's okay, thank you. I know I'm in no man's land over here, so. Just one question, I'm not sure through you, Mr. Mayor, to the presenter, Greg. Do you have any idea of the pricing or costs of the other towns that they spent on the bocce courts?
No, I don't. It depends upon how it was done. I think West Lincoln, it was somewhere around $11,000. The Vale Center, their courts were really fancy. So you're looking at all the fencing, the cement work, everything else that went into it, and it was up over $100,000, I'm sure. Like, we priced it out. If we wanted to build one ourselves, we could probably do it for approximately $3,000 a court. But I mean, that's just the materials. When you start, if you're paying for labor, then you're looking at a higher price.
Okay, good. So, yeah, I definitely am supportive of this. I think it is something the town's lacking. And in order to play bocce, it is nice to have proper courts for sure. So, and then I guess my other question is, have you sought any funding from the Special Olympics for the installation of bocce courts or any grant money?
No, we haven't pursued that as yet. I mean, we were looking at, one of the things that we were looking at is if we were going to build courts, we would have gone to suppliers and asked them to donate the materials and stuff like that. But I've been told that basically the town of Pelham goes to tender for projects, so that basically wipes something like that option right out. Special Olympics Ontario, we don't receive funding from them per se. Any funding for our programs and stuff like that are money that we raise within the community. So we have to raise the money for our programs. We can raise money, and we would be willing to try and raise as much as we can, but I can't make any guarantees as to how much.
Okay, thank you. So I guess this is a question for Ms. Van Ravensway now.
She's not here today.
Oh, fair enough then. I'll save it. No worries. Thank you.
Okay. But of course, with this, we've got a lot of time here between now and when we decide the budget. So staff will be looking at this. And
Yeah.
I will, if I can, before I go to Councilor Eckert, I'll go to our Director of Finance. Excuse me. She is indeed our grant wizard. And what do you ever see anything along these lines, Ms. Quinlan?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if we recall, Peace Park. How was Peace Park done? There was a lot of volunteers and funds were raised, and we were able to give out donation receipts. So, this one here looks like it could be a really good grant opportunity as well. So we'll take it back, talk to our grant team, and also look at different options with Public Works, what we can do.
Thank you. And now I'll go to Councilor Eckert.
Yes, thank you very much. So Centennial Park is the desired location, you think, or?
No, any location is fine with us.
Okay.
We would prefer it to be in Pelham.
Oh, for sure.
Just basically, we do have athletes and stuff like that are from Pelham. All our sports pretty well occur in the town of Welland. This summer, we did try and do athletics at Glen E. Green's school at the track, but unfortunately, we cut our season early. We were just having too many cases of road rash.
Okay.
The track is in really poor shape, so I think we're going to be looking at another location.
Just not really a question, but some comments. I agree with Ms. Quinlan Murphy that I think this is an excellent opportunity to capitalize on some grants. Second observation would be, if I'm not mistaken, some improvements or things that we did in Marlene Stewart Street Park in regards to the skateboard and things like that. There was money raised by the public that went in to augment some of the work or most of the work that was done. So it's not beyond the realm of possibility here that you could fundraise some and contribute to it. And then the last thing would be to Public Works, and I don't mean to put them on the spot, but this seems to me that in cooperation with, and we may hear a presentation later about companies donating to projects that they don't necessarily do the build or whatever, or we put out to public tender. But is this something that the construction of these bocce courts, perhaps under the direction of Mr. Belmore, that Public Works would build and install?
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Jason Martin, Director of Public. I saw the CEO reaching for his mic.
Well,
so
I'll
I'm
defer
sorry.
to the CAO.
Go ahead, sir.
I think we probably should have started the morning with just some general commentary for all the delegates to hear and understand that what our process is here at the town. So a budget's created, fundamentally it's a big staff undertaking. We need X million dollars to do these projects and to meet payroll and that sort of stuff. And then it comes to council, and council takes the default, what we think might work, and they make their adjustments. Which is where all the serious either spending or cutting comes into place. But we sort of set the stage, and then it becomes the public document led by council. So the default process here is to take all the requests by various community groups, and usually they're in a sort of a separately contained portion of the budget document, so that council can say, well, we like that one, or we can partially support that. And essentially council, there are three choices, which is to support a project fully through tax dollars, to not support a project, or we red circle some that wherein we're waiting to see if we can obtain some third party, i.e. grant funding or community fundraising or whatever that happens to be to hit some portion of it. So that's fundamentally what happens from the outcome from your requests today. Is a separate section of the budget that has some analysis by staff. So we're talking about the Public Works Department will figure out what it costs to create a bocce court. And that'll be in the document, some rough guidelines. And then the Finance Department takes it and they do the format and the presentation of the data. And then council has here's the basic amount of money we think we need to run the corporation. And here are some options, and the options will include all the things that are addressed today by all the various community groups. This is why for the last one, although Mr. Redekop couldn't attend, why the questions were about, well, I'm not sure what's being asked, and can we get some prices? Because you can't pass a budget with you have to have some idea. So that sort of helps funnel, regardless of, we will put some data in the budgets and we might indicate, a different price if it's done by a third party or a different price if it's done by staff. So we'll get to that piece. Just that will be included. That does inform sort of how we cost things out. But the outcomes today are, or it won't be today at all, but at a future budget session, red circled, which means we support the thing in principle, and then we'll go chase grant funding. it's not supported at all, or it's fully supported, no need to chase the grant. Those are sort of the three outcomes, just so that everyone's abundantly clear. And imagine I haven't stolen any thunder, but if I have, I apologize. Back over to Public Works.
To Public Works Director Jason Marr.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. So just to add on the CAO's comments, did steal my thunder, but from this point forward, like, staff will look at what's required to build a bocce court. I don't have experience with that, so we will reach out to other municipalities, find out what the exact scope of work is, get some estimates, and then we can report back to council.
Okay, thank you for that, Director. And following the CEO's guidance for this presentation and for following presentations, we will keep the questions and comments on a more general note, please. Thank you, sir, for your presentation. And from the comments, it would seem that you have a lot of support from this council for this project.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, and great for bringing out your the helpers. Thank you. I turn to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Hildebrandt. Be resolved that council receive the presentation and 2025 budget submission from the Special Olympics Well in Pelham regarding bocce courts for recreational use for information, and that the request be referred to staff for the inclusion in the budget considerations. To you, Mr. Mayor, for any other discussion.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussions on this application presentation? Not seeing any. I call the vote. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. To the clerk.
Thank you. We do have the Pelham Art Festival here. We do have Tammy Vanden Brink here to present her request.
Thank you. And you have the floor.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors. Myself, Tammy Vanden Brink, as well as another committee member of ours, Mia, is here to present asking for the town for some financial assistance for our committee for this coming fiscal year. We're a nonprofit organization that's been long-standing in the Pelham community for up to 38 years this coming season, and we hope to celebrate our 38th annual Pelham Art Festival this coming season in Mother's Day weekend. We have a small PowerPoint presentation, if I can get that up. I'm not sure if many of you know who we are, but we'll briefly describe some of this information to you. So we're the Pelham Art Festival, been in Pelham now for 37 years, celebrating 38 years. Our existence has been greatly attributed to our local artist scene and trying to incorporate the arts within our community. So we started 38 years ago in someone's backyard with the hopes of generating the funds towards the public library of any sales and commissions. These are some pictures of the nostalgic days back then when the first art show was implemented. Since then, we've grown to accept over 2,000 visitors to Pelham on the special weekend of Mother's Day, specifically for the commencement of the art festival. And these people and patrons come from all over Ontario. So we have local artists as well as artists generating come from as far away as Kingston, Ottawa, Quebec, and London, Ontario. Keep scrolling. So we're asking for money. We've had a little bit of an issue. Since our inception, we've been able to store art boards, which are shown here on Pelham town private premises. First, we started in the library basement and then moved to the Meridian Center when it was created. These panels are now taking up space that you guys need specifically for your own equipment. And so we're kind of in a stuck spot where we're generating our money every year towards giving back to the town of Pelham. We haven't put in our budget anything in terms of replacing these art boards or storing them. So for this coming year, we're asking for a grant of $6,000 to help support us in storing the art board specifically. I can scroll down one more. possible. Here's a close-up of the boards. So these boards function for the artists to create their own space in our festival. They're pegboard material, so it's not hardwood. It's very much, it can be adjusted to the elements, so we need storage that's properly adequate to store them, and no moisture, nothing in the elements. So we don't want to damage them. They're also built custom, so each artist gets an 8x8 storage space, or space for their art to be shown. And this optimizes our space that we can use inside the Meridian Center to allow 80 artists to show their work. If we do replace them, we're looking at screens that are 10 by 10, which unfortunately limits then the amount of artists that we can have in our facility, which then decreases the amount of money we get in terms of our art registrations, as well as the artists' sales. And we generate an income through the commission of the art sales as well. Let's scroll down to the next one. So this is just, oh, this one's missing, but so I'll just explain here. We've done some research. Part of our committee members have looked into renting art boards, so we would not use these art boards anymore and rent art boards. The cost for that was over $7,500. As I mentioned, that was also a 10 by 10 frame instead of the 8 by 8, which we currently are using. And then we've also researched the option of storing our art boards and then bringing them on site for the weekend that we need them. And the cost for that was a minimum of $5,000, not including delivery fee to the Meridian Center. So we just want to explain a little bit more here. So we're thriving in our art community, recognized within the Niagara region as one of the premier art shows. We get representatives from all over the Niagara region, as far away as Kingston and Ottawa, like I mentioned. This last season, we only have space for 80 artists, and we had over 135 applications. So it is something that people want to come to. The locals that come, I was privileged to work on our tickets table this last season, and I met a lady who came with tears in her eyes and said that this was the first year she was without her mother at the art show. They made it an annual tradition to come. Her mother passed away at the age of 99. And every year her mom and her came to the art show and bought a piece of artwork. So she was coming back in honor of her mother to purchase art from the specific artist. I think there's many stories like that within Niagara, where a lot of people have come and made it a tradition to come out on Mother's Day and support the local art scene. We also have a review from the library. So every year we donate the majority of our funds towards the library in Pelham, as well as scholarship donations to students within the high schools in the area who are continuing their education in art. So from the library specifically, they've used the money that we've generated for them specifically for furniture, special projects. Last year, 2 years ago, they were able to put the storybook walk in Woodstream Park, which is widely used, and again, just used yesterday, promoted for the Indigenous representation there as well. They've purchased magazine subscription, furniture for the library, festival rooms, study booths. They've repainted and done renovations. And they also have been able to put the slatted wall in the facility room for the art to be displayed there as well. They're always very grateful for our partnership. Moving forward, we've donated now since our inception over $500,000 towards the town of Pelham. Most of that money has been given to the library, as well as the sponsorships that we give to the students. And we also work with local businesses. We always try to make sure that our local businesses are included in our projects. So all of our catering is done with local community members. We work with the launch program of the local high schools, and they bring in their students for a day and help us set up. Local greenhouses, we work with them to help us with the decorations of the facility. And as well as the talented Jim Cassins helps us provide local entertainment for the musical scene. We've never had to ask for money before, so this is a little bit different for us. We've always been giving it. But right now we're kind of at a spot where we haven't budgeted this extra money. All of the money that we generated for our last show has already been allocated towards the Pelham Library and the sponsorship scholarships towards the students. And so right now we're asking for a grant for $6,000 to help for the rental space for our art boards. We haven't fully moved forward on that, but as a committee, we've discussed the option of renting versus storing. And for us, just being able to store our art boards, which are currently still in good repair, they work specifically for what we need. We don't want to have to deal with the expensive refusing the art boards currently as they stand. And just kind of an eco-friendly, budget-friendly option. It's not as expensive as renting art boards, and we'd like to keep them for as long as we can. So that's the cost, would be the $6,000. So we will, we're hoping then over this next term, where we've just started meeting in September again, our committee members work faithfully from September to June to provide the ample abilities and resources for the show to move forward. And in this year, we're also hoping to generate some more income from sponsors to be able to help cover this cost in the future. Unfortunately, because of what our membership stands for, we do this all to generate income for the community. If we were to have to cover that cost, the $6,000, where our donations to the town would be much more limited. We don't feel that our committee members would be willing to continue on with the art show for a smaller donation. So we're hoping with this temporary grant given for this coming year to help cover the cost of the storage, that we'll be able to muster some more interest and flexibility in terms of our finances for the coming years to be able to keep the show in Pelham. It is definitely a working of the hearts. The committee members a lot of them have been, since the inception of the show, standing on the committee for 38 years. And so it is, they're very much active in the workings of it and very proud of the opportunity to give back to the town of Pelham, which they serve. If you have any questions, I'm willing to answer them
Okay, great. Thank you for our presentation.
Thank you.
At least for the last 5 or 6 years, I've attended your show religiously.
Yeah.
Always blown away with the quality of the work
Yes,
that
yeah.
your artists that come here. It's just amazing me. It's just crazy how good it is.
I know.
And just to, I want to make sure I heard the right number. So in the 37 years, so you have donated $500,000 to town businesses, I guess?
That's correct. So this coming year, we'll just break over the $500,000
Okay,
mark.
and now you're asking for a grant of $6,000. I would think that's a pretty good return on an investment.
Hoping it's fair, yeah.
Yes. Okay, I'll open up to the council. Right off the top, I'm very supportive of this grant. And like you, have you heard the CAO would just keep the questions
Certainly.
common, not too detailed. The request will go to us in budget.
Certainly.
Where hopefully by that time, staff will have a report as to the storage capabilities the town has of storing that, and we'll have some of the wrinkles ironed out.
Yeah.
But, councils, any questions to the presenters? Councilor Kerr.
Just one quick, this is a one-time request.
So we're hoping it's a one-time request. We're hoping that with this next coming fiscal year that we'll be able to generate some more sponsorships in order to cover the costs of the storage moving forward.
Right, it's because you already allocated all your resources, so you're looking at a
Exactly, yeah.
one-time request, but anticipating in your future budgets that you would
Yeah, so we're
build
hoping,
in.
we have different ways of potentially generating some more income. We've always kept our admissions low, so we're hoping maybe if we increase our admission prices by $2, our registration has also been maintained at a lower mark as well. So there is some flexibility in our registration fee to help save on, or to help create some more revenue in that regard. Yeah, we're just kind of in a stumbling block right now, unfortunately.
Councilor, good. Any other comments or questions? Not seeing any. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you much for your time.
And like I say, we will, staff can answer some of the questions before it comes back to council at budget time.
Certainly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. To the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Niznik seconded by Councillor Eckert. Be it resolved that Council receive the presentation and 2025 budget submission from the Pelham Art Festival regarding storage of artboards for information, and that the request be referred to staff for the inclusion in the budget considerations. To you, Mr. Mayor, for any additional comment.
Yep, thank you. One last time, Councillor, any questions or comments? Well, not questions, comments. Not seeing any. I call the vote. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our next delegate is Mr. Matt Peters, and this is from the Pelham Minor Baseball Association. We'd ask the presenter to please come up.
Okay. Mr. Peters, you have the floor, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Mr. Mayor, council, staff, appreciate you having me. My name is Matt Peters, president of PMBA, and so I represent the 11 volunteers on a not-for-profit board that runs the youth baseball in Pelham. First off, we really cherish this partnership that we have with the town. You're our most important partner in being able to fulfill our mission. So first of all, I just wanted to thank you. Also with some of your staff in particular, so Vicky's team at the rec department with Haley and Brian in particular, for going above and beyond, and Public Works for doing their job to keep our fields playable and in good shape. Baseball isn't new. We've been playing it here for over 100 years in the town, but we need to keep things safe, and we need to continue to look at, okay, what's next, what's coming in the next few years, 5-10 years down the road. So we felt it's important that we come here and make sure that you know how the vision that we have, and to also make sure that it jives with your vision, including your master plan for the town as the town grows. The other thing, I mean, a lot of you have played baseball, been around baseball, you know what that can do for a child, and the importance of sports in development. We're really working to raise good humans. And in effect, we are raising good baseball players. That's almost secondary. But we're really focused on raising good humans. And so we want to keep those individuals happy and safe. And in order to do that, we've got a few requests. I've sent it around, and I trust you've been able to have a look. We need a little more capacity. One way that we think that can be done, North Pelham Park, I don't know if anybody's been there recently. There's one senior-sized ballpark in Pelham. That's at Harold Black Park, and it's tired. So before you go investing a lot of money and bring that up to where it should be, we're suggesting that you consider changing that into a softball diamond. And then the softball diamond at Centennial Park, C2, transitioning that into baseball. We'd like to keep the majority of our baseball activities within that age group at one facility. We've got a fantastic batting cage that we were able to get funding through the town, and it's been awesome. Our ball players are better for it. We haven't had any incidents. We had one theft of some baseballs. These things happen, but generally it's been fantastic. So I guess while I'm talking about batting cage, we'd like one light. We'd like to be able to do a little more training early in the season and late in the season. Later at night, little capacity building there, just need a light. So back to the transition of North Pelham to Centennial. Joe is the commissioner of the softball league. He supports this. That would put 2 softball diamonds at North Pelham instead of just the one. Sean Cunningham is the coach of the E.L. Crosley baseball team, and he supports this as well, having all the facilities in Centennial Park for that size. What's needed at North Pelham Park in order to make this happen is lights. I believe that's been talked about within the department for a few years. So we'd like to see that right away. That's a pretty important piece of this transition, is getting lights at Harold Black. Thank you. I was wondering what that look was. Yeah. Sorry, I might have to step back a bit. Harold Black Park is where your single adult size diamond is. So moving that, switching that to Centennial. Thank you. So getting lights onto Harold Black Park would be a critical step. Then there's a few other things that we'd like to see in the meantime to make it easier for Public Works and the rec department. We can get rid of the grass in the infield like you did at Centennial Park 3, C3. So I think those are things that we'd like to see that for next year. Lights aren't cheap, we understand. So hopefully we can find some money or some funding for that. Another thing that, so just so you know, within our organizations, we've got about 300 members. More than half are in the T-ball and coach pitch divisions. They all play at North Pelham Park. That park is also very tired, and we have some safety concerns. There's a few things that we'd like to see done for 2025, including resurfacing those diamonds from gravel to clay. If you can imagine, the first time, rookie ball is a machine pitch. The first time that machine throws a ball and you're a catcher, you have all the gear, it's a very frightening thing for a child. The ball hits the ground and shoots rocks into your face. They do not catch again. They likely don't play again. And this is just something that happens weekly. Same with sliding. I think I stood up here last year and told you, so I don't want to go too far into that, but gravel in the knees sucks. So we'd like that reimagined. I also understand that in the greater master plan in the town, that there could be potential for another facility in Font Hill. That's where the majority of the kids are. That's, there's a lot of young families here. So we'd be open to moving the North Pelham Park and its facilities for young athletes to a new park in Font Hill, if that's part of the plan. So we just want to be part of those discussions to make sure we align together on what happens in the future. We have a few other safety concerns. With climate change, we have worse weather more frequently. So that's big on our mind. How do we help make our ballparks a little more resilient so we can keep playing? So a few small things should be able to cover our dugouts, give the kids some shade, keep them happy, protect them from some rain. We'll play through a bit of rain if we can, right? Get the games done if it's safe. So we'd like to be able to offer a little protection there. And then we've got a few small infrastructure projects regarding safety that I think we can work through the rec department on specifics, so I won't get into the details there. There's also a few drainage projects that we think could help. That again I guess one drainage project that might require a bit of budget consideration would be specifically on C3. We tend to have, and that's a sand infield, we tend to have some standing water on the back side where we think one hit a tile drain around the back and out to a drainage ditch that's already there would solve that. And I've asked the rec department to get some numbers together for you for consideration on that. Beyond that, just to share some successes, like I said, we're trying to develop good humans, but in the meantime, we developed some good ball players. So we had 3 rep teams this year that each won a tournament, which is a pretty big deal for a tiny community. team that I coached ended up 5th in Ontario, and we played up 1 division, so that was great. And then we had a 9U rep team that was 3rd in Ontario. We had the best results out of our house league than I've ever seen. They actually won a fair amount of games. A lot of those teams won more than they lost, so that was big. We've managed to develop it that way. So I just kind of wanted to let you know. Thanks for the batting cage. It helps, and thanks for all the support in giving us great facilities. So I'll open that up to questions. But again, thank you for your time and your efforts. Appreciate it.
Okay, Matt, so thanks for your presentation. Great to see that you've got quality teams that when you're getting in the top 5 of the province, that's pretty awesome. So congratulations on that. I can imagine when the kids win those tournaments over the top, no doubt. So great to see. And your enrollment, did you say around 300? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Wow, that's a lot of youth. Excellent. I'll open it up to council. Any questions? Councillor Kerr.
Just one comment, a suggestion that, and this is for almost for everyone, when you have a number of requests, it would really nice to have a ranking of priority of what you as an organization feel, so that the rec and culture knows how to do it, and then we can work with numbers there, knowing this is an A priority, B, C. That just kind of helps. To have a whole laundry list sometimes makes it a little more difficult to evaluate. That's just a suggestion.
Yeah,
Thank you. Matt, do you think you could prioritize things?
Yeah. So you're
Excellent.
right. The list that I gave you was a bit of a laundry list, and I kind of focused on those the 2. So I'd say the priority for us right now would be lights at Harold Black, in order to facilitate the diamond switch, and upgrades to North Pelham Park.
Okay. Yep, good. Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other questions?
I should add the 3rd, sorry, covers on our benches.
And that one sounds like the most doable, for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks. Any other questions, comments to the presenter? Not seeing any. Matt, again, thanks for the presentation. And I know, like you say, we've got a great working relationship between minor baseball and the town public works, and I'm sure that will continue into the future.
And
Thank you.
Well, thank you. And we are looking forward to working with your department to help access some funding. So we're definitely willing to continue to do that.
Excellent.
And we're looking forward to hosting an OBA here in the near future.
Oh,
And we think that these changes will allow us to do that. We currently can't, and so that's potentially a different avenue to help bring in, I don't know if it's a tourism grant or whatever it might be, but that's what we'd like to do. So
excellent.
thank you very much for your time.
Very good. Thanks. And good luck in the in next season.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. To the clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Wing, seconded by Councillor Olson. Be it resolved that Council receive the presentation and 2025 budget submission from Pelham Minor Baseball Association regarding baseball facility improvements for information, and that the request be referred to staff for inclusion in the budget considerations. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Thank you. One last time. Any other questions or comments? And I don't see any. Call the question. All those in favor? See none opposed, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our next delegate would be Ron Hall, and this is with respect to Fenwick Pickleball Courts request for improvements. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Hall, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you for seeing me again from last year. As you know, I don't have to explain pickleball. It's gone crazy. And we have a lot more members every year joining, players. I put my...
If I may, just,
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
sorry. So, the town has invested in those pickleball courts out in Centennial. I take it they're being used to the fullest.
Yeah, they're being used. A lot of times, first thing in the morning. A lot of the players love playing at 6:37 in the morning. I can't get there that early, but anyway, yeah, and it's full. We have, I would say, most mornings it's busy.
Excellent.
Okay, so
Yep, thank you.
we even have Julie Cook there 3 times a week playing. So
Excellent.
so anyway, I prioritized my 3 requests. My first, something that you, and most of these requests you guys have heard and probably well aware of, but the first request involves the roadway. Now, last year we had a problem with it, with young people spinning their wheels, their tires, and sending the gravel and the stones all over the courts. That seems to have subsided this year, although I did hear that it's being done further down by the baseball diamonds. Having said that, the problem with that gravel in the roadway is the dust and the stones, of course. And it's really dusty and terrible. A lot of the players now, or a number of our players, are parking their cars down at the tennis courts and walking, or even on the grass fields. And it's not just for us. I mean, you got people with soccer that come. A lot of people, when I'm there, walking their dogs, park there. I even met some women recently we got talking about the roadway, and they were hoping it'd be paved one day because of the dust and everything that is kicked up on it. Now, I was glad to hear you have speed bumps, because part of my request was going to mention, at the very least, where the roadway ends just before the pickleball courts and you hit the gravel, put a speed bump. It might slow some of the cars down from flying off the roadway onto the gravel. And it is a real concern, and a lot of the guys talk to me all the time about it, because a number of them have bought brand new cars and do not want to park down there because of it. So anyway, that's my first priority with improving the area. The second one, which I believe is as important as the first one, and this is something we've started a couple years ago requesting, is some shade, of course, and you hear that from other facilities that need shade. And I believe a year and a half ago, you did purchase a shelter, and you were going to put it on a cement pad and maybe one or two picnic tables underneath, but somehow it didn't meet requirements, which I don't know what that was, but it was set back. But with the weather the way it is, and you know how hot June, July, and August is, we need some sort of shade. I know there was an area, as you come into the parking lot to the left, you're going to put a cement pad down and have the shelter like a gazebo or whatever. That would be really, I think it would really help, because you must remember, at least 50% or more of the players are over 60 and 70 years old. We even have a 90-year-old woman playing 3 times a week, and it would be really nice to have some shade. And what really emphasized it this year, a month ago, or I guess it was close to 2 months ago, we had a gentleman have a heart attack on the court. And we luckily got him to the hospital, where he had another heart attack, but he survived, and he's in good shape now. And you know, that's just kind of emphasized the fact that we got to have some shade out there, because it's just too hot in some of the days anyway. And I also thought about, because we've mentioned this before, a defibrillator. But the problem is, I don't know where you'd put it. But it'd be really nice, and when I see that and the age group that plays pickleball, I get a little worried and concerned, that it could happen again, And of course, the third one, and this is one that will be nice to get eventually, lights. Especially when you're talking around mid-August into September. Now that the weather stays nice, they're playing to the end of October. Well, obviously it gets dark early, and we really can't play in the evening. But believe me, being pickleball, they would be there. So anyway, that's my, the third priority, which would be a nice thing to eventually get. Now, there's one thing not concerning Fenwick that I wanted to bring up today as a more of an awareness. And there's something you guys are well aware about, and that's the Meridian Pickleball Gym. The windows, which I know everybody knows about, has been a problem since day one. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up again is I know film was put on the windows when you opened, and I was even asked to put my judgment whether they were good or not. Well, it turned out it wasn't good. The sun, it did not block the sun coming in. Now, I understand a month or maybe a month and a half ago or whatever, you took the old film down and put new film on with the idea that it was going to work. At first, I thought it did. I didn't think nothing of it. It seemed to be okay, but then you got to be there on a day when it's bright and sunny to really make your judgment. Well, a few weeks ago, it was a bright, sunny Friday morning, 9:30, 10 in the morning, bright, sunny day. You couldn't even see the ball. It did not work. It made it darker. It's a darker film you put on, which made it a little darker inside, which is okay, but does not block the sun. So before you make this judgment call, you should research it and make sure it does work, because I'm sure you spent quite a bit of money to put this new film down. And believe me, on a bright sunny day, no, it's no different than what it was before. So anyway, I wanted to bring, because for 6 years I've been fighting for something for these windows since the day it opened. And I don't know, I think the only solution is curtains or blinds or something like that that I can see. But anyway, I want to thank you for letting me make my requests. And if there's any questions or can...
Okay, Ron, again, nice to see you again. And I'm glad to see this council does not mind spending money on assets as long as they get used. And I know I have been at Centennial Park on afternoons, and they're being used, the pickleball park for it. Yeah. So that's good to see.
Yeah, that's good.
Council, any questions to the presenter on pickleballs? Not seeing any. So, Ron, we'll consider this at budget time and have some staff input, and we'll see what we can do.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks. I turn to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Eckert, seconded by Councillor Kerr. Be it resolved that Council receive the presentation and 2025 budget submission from Mr. Ron Hall regarding improvements to the Fenwick pickleball courts for information, and that the request be referred to staff for inclusion in the budget considerations. To you, Mr. Mayor, for any other additional comments.
Okay, thank you. Any comments? Not seeing any. Oh, call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Motion carries. Thank you, sir. To the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our next delegate is the Pelham Active Transportation Committee. A general request for funding, and we do have Mr. Brian Beatty, the chair, here to speak.
Thank you. Brian, you have the floor, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for this opportunity, and I'll be mentioning that two members of our committee are here, Laurie Laney and Frank Adamson, and I'm going to be asking Frank to come forward during this presentation in terms of some initiatives he's undertaking. First of all, the Town of Pelham Council has supported the Pelham Active Transportation Committee for several years. I believe it's 17 in total right now. Significant progress has been made in the development of our sidewalks, our trails, parks, and cycling facilities. And Council is to be commended for the completion of the sidewalks from Welland Road to the Welland Town line, as was recommended actually by members of last year's Pelham Active Transportation Committee, in particular for the residents of the seniors' home that's there and their friends and family, et cetera, in terms of access to the pharmacy and doctors, et cetera, that are closer to Welland Street. We're recognized as a silver bicycle-friendly community. Our citizens benefit from the paving of the Seedbauer Trail from the Welland boundary to Port Robinson Road. And our opportunity to make a budget presentation is appreciated and request your consideration of our requests. First would be the annual operating budget. PATC has operated with an operational budget of $2,500, with year-end balances not carried over to the next budget year. So the budget request for next year is, as it currently is, $2,500. The next request comes as a bit of a surprise. Up until this year, the CAA organization has funded the organization, the Share the Road Coalition, has funded the process of them granting status in terms of bicycle-friendly status. They've changed that this year. First of all, CAA is no longer a sponsor of that. And secondly, it used to be a twice-a-year program in terms of application, and they've reverted to only being one time a year, October. And so basically, while we have the silver classification at the moment, we believe that our efforts that have been undertaken in the last number of years and continuing into this year may provide us to go to either the gold or higher standard. What basically we're looking for here is the application fees that are now in place are based upon the community size. The size of the population of Pelham is at the lowest level, and that application fee is $750 to Share the Road Coalition. And that would, if that goes forward this year, would be a submission in October of next year in terms of making the application. And it would be a circumstance where that qualification, whatever it might turn out to be, would basically be for a 4-year period. I want to commend the staff, the public works staff, and particularly Ryan Cook, in terms of the work that's been done. If you're reading your website, you know about this, but we haven't done a public pronouncement that there are 3 bicycle loops that are basically designed and signed, or in the process of being signed. There's markers basically on the posts of stop signs with arrows, okay, pointing the direction. There's a Jerry Burkout Trail and Welland River loop. There is what we're calling the Villages Loop, which connects Fenwick, North Pelham, Ridgeville, Fonthill, etc. And then there's basically a Short Hills Loop, which involves some significant hills, etc. Along with that, there's, with regard to the signage process, is that the streets in Fonthill were designated 4 streets in terms of north-south and 4 streets east and west in terms of bicycle-friendly status. Should be noticed that the ones that basically are going from east to west all have bicycle facilities. They're either off the road, or on the road with bicycle lanes, or on the road with sharrows. And it's a situation where basically significant work has happened in terms of this project. We've already installed bicycle facilities, being repair kits, etc., and maps and so on at our major parks and so on. It's a case where it's a very significant process, probably be the envy of other communities where we probably will have an official unveiling of this project probably in the spring of this next year. There are 5 categories basically used in the determination of bicycle-friendly status. And while I haven't shared this with the committee yet, I'm suggesting that each member of the committee take on the research job of finding those people who have above a silver reputation and find out what have they done to enhance the bicycle friendly status in their community. And the categories are engineering, education, encouragement, basically valuation and planning, and equity and accessibility. And so hopefully with that will give us sort of a research process over this next year in terms of finding out who's done better than we have, and to try and make sure that we borrow their ideas for the future. The next request may not be possible in talking with the director in terms of full completion, but we're asking for at least the commencement of the capital funding request with regard to basically, it's on the books right now for 2026 for the paving of the Steve Bauer Trail from Port Robinson Road to the former lumberyard property where it meets the Hurricane Road section of the former rail trail. And if it's possible to do that, at least in terms of the design stage of that, it would be an incentive for the proposed initiative by the Rotary Clubs, which Frank is going to talk about in a second, to complete the rail trail from Pelham to Thorold, and eventually to the Circle Route. We have the connection to the Circle Route, Niagara Circle Route already on the Welland section by the paving that was done of the Steve Bauer Trail. and it connects with paved trails all the way into Welland and to the canal area for that significant bicycle venue. And when Frank is going to just talk just right now in terms of his undertaking with the Rotary clubs, and should this initiative in terms of be approved, be it this year or next year, it would pick up approximately 20% of the shared costs for Thorold, for the region, for ourselves, and so on, in the amount of $20,000. Frank?
Thanks, Frank. So Frank, before you begin your presentation, I can rest assured that you traveled all 3 loops in the town?
Many, many times. You don't see me waving when I'm passing your house?
No, I'm sorry.
No?
Yeah,
Okay.
Give me a shout out next time.
Yeah, I'm still on my bike.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, councilors, senior staff, thanks so much for the opportunity to address you today. As our chair alluded, there's an opportunity to do something with this old spur line that runs essentially, well, it would hook up to the Steve Bauer Trail, basically, on Port Robinson Road. And we know through your Director of Public Works that there's going to be major work done on Station Street, and there will be dedicated bike lines. We understand that's probably not going to happen until 2026. When you get up to the highway 20, basically take the sidewalk over to what I call the Peter Piper's strip mall across from Sobeys. Trail runs behind that. It's in pretty good shape, but again, it needs paving, and that's a cost of maybe $80,000. I don't know exactly. There is no plans from Hurricane Road on. So our section of that trail basically goes from Hurricane Road to the city road boundary of Thorold, which is basically at the juncture of Sleep Country and Castle Hardware. So it's a very small portion. It then carries on through Farmers Fields behind. It goes under Highway 20, 406, I should say. And then basically Kottmeyer Road at Beaver Dams, and then along Beaver Dam roads it goes to Ormond, and from Ormond you could throw a stone and you'd be in the Welland Canal. And basically, so the idea of this is to hook into the Great Circle route. So Bruce Timms was a long-term member of Regional Council for some 27 years. He's a past president of the Rotary Club of St. Catharines Lakeshore. He and I have been in some dialogue over the last number of months in regards to looking at a multi-Rotary Club project that involves the environment and involves safety, and also involves physical fitness. And as you know, the Steve Bauer Trail that is here today, that was recently paved, was a major project of my Rotary Club. A number of years ago, we accessed a Trillium grant. It was about a 6-figure grant to make that happen. And basically, the 3 Rotary clubs in St. Catharines, 2 Rotary clubs in Niagara Falls, and the Rotary Club of Font Hill are interested in taking this on as a project. It's a small $1 million project. The arches are only $250,000, so this is a little bigger, but we got about 6 clubs involved this time. And so, long story short, we have already met with Tom Rankin. And as you all know, Tom Rankin is in the business of building roads and bridges and windmills and condominiums, and he's also very philanthropic and has given back a lot to a lot of communities, including, I'm on the board of Wellspring, and we received a $500,000 contribution from Tom for the capital for that building. Tom's quite excited about this project. As I said, it's $1 million. 3 communities involved, essentially. Ours is the shortest link. We're talking about a kilometer, and it's 9.6 kilometers in total. And so Thorold across all the farmlands over to Kottmeyer Road basically would be their section, and then Beaver Dams is a regional road. So we're going to be talking to the region as well. Now, this is in your long-term plan, was to develop this. It's also in the city of Thorold's. We've looked at their plan for their walkability and cyclability and sidewalk there, and it is in their plan to be done. It is, by the way, owned by this town and owned by the city of Thorold. And then the regional portion, the regional road, would be there. So we are going to be approaching both those levels of government as well for a contribution towards this. The best guesstimate right off the top of this project, as I said, is $1 million. Basically, our portion, we're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of about $100,000. So 90% of it basically would be divided between Thorold and the region at about $90,000 each. I think their budgets are a little bigger than ours and yours, and so hopefully, because it is in their planning documents already, that they'll be on board. Rotary is committed to fundraising for this project. As with the arches, we don't want the town tendering it. It's going to get kind of messy with 3 levels of government trying to tender this project. We think Tom's going to be in for a significant number of dollars, and probably the lead club being the Lakeshore Club in St. Catharines and my club are willing to do that work to sort out exactly what we need to do to make this happen. We don't want to see it tendered knowing that Tom may well be good for a quarter to half of this cost. Somebody else to pick it up, and all of a sudden that $250,000 to $500,000 isn't there anymore. So we're willing to take this on and then to gift that back to the town, as we did with the arches, and gift that back to the city of Thorold. And then it would be the responsibility of those levels of government to maintain it, as they do with the Great Circle route once that's in place. But it's a wonderful opportunity for us to tie in the Great Circle route. It's a way of bringing people from the Great Circle route into Pelham, and more importantly, safely bring people from Pelham to the Great Circle route. Highway 20 ain't safe on a bicycle, I can assure you. I do not go on that road at all. And the only other way to get there safely, not so safely, but a little safer, is down Port Robinson Road. But again, no shoulders, deep ditches, lots of trees and posts, and speeding traffic. So if this can get us safely to the Great Circle route and vice versa. The big move ride is always done in Pelham for the Walker Center. I participated in that this year. And this would be a wonderful route that could be used that gets all those people off the roads that are on the roads. We had 400 cyclists on that Saturday, a couple of Saturdays ago here. So just that, and again, Brian talked about our designation as silver. This will help us to get up to the gold level. And as you know, the Canada Summer Games, all the cycling was done here in Pelham. Basically, the trials in Wainfleet, but that was done here. We are known as a cyclable community, and basically, this is really going to help. So essentially, the ask is consideration of putting aside $20,000 towards this project, and in the next budget year, recognizing that the Station Street part may not happen for the year after that. That's fine. Doesn't matter. We can get going on this. Trillium, I met with with Trillium and have a more formal meeting coming up with them. Possibility of a $200,000 grant from Trillium. FedDev for tourism will give up to $250,000 in grants. Rotary's probably in this for about $100,000. And so depending on what Mr. Rankin's willing to do, it was sort of ballpark $1 million, but they're actually costing it out as exactly what it would cost. Another interesting thing is that, he did Pelham Street here, he's now doing the 406, is that when they take that top surface of asphalt off, basically he's reusing about a quarter of that, 25%, when they create new pavement. He said since there's no load on this trail, he could probably use 50%, but he's already got the material. This is waste product. So we said we don't need this to be paved. We're quite happy to have it as a composite that you can ride a bicycle on. He says, well, I'm in the paving business. So in other words, he's really willing to step up. So that could be a significant savings. So basically, that's our request, and the request for for next year's budget that you put aside $20,000 of this $1 million project. Thank you.
Excellent. Is that the end of the presentation, or?
Just a short
Oh,
comment.
okay, then we'll hold off on the questions. Yep, go ahead.
And it's a case where the director has indicated to me that the design for this project in terms of along Station Street is not done, so perhaps that could be accelerated into this year and the actual work being done in 2026 as originally planned. And the last thing to mention is not necessarily for our committee, but for council as a whole. We had a presentation regarding the proposed study about a Fonthill Fenwick corridor project. Committee was very supportive of this initiative and trust the council will consider funding through 2005 and beyond towards moving that project forward. Okay, that's the end of our presentation. Be prepared to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, well, thank all of you for the presentation. And just want to say that over the past years, I don't know how long your committee has been in existence, but every year you guys bring good common sense ideas that would help the bicycle community in Pelham. And we really appreciate the work and the time you put in to figure out the routes, whatever, and to bring your request to council. Frank, I'm very glad that you did mention that the railway is indeed municipally owned. I know we've been using it for years and years, but I didn't know if we were leasing or what, but it is completely owned by the two municipalities, so that's great. Excellent, thank you for that. Any questions on the presentation? Not seeing any. I'm sorry, Public Works. Director of Public Works, Jason Marr.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, not so much a question, but a clarification. So council did approve, as part of the 2024 capital budget, the design of Station Street. So that project is ongoing, sitting at probably 75% complete. The anticipation is that we will complete the design this calendar year in advance of a potential project in 2026. That's where it sits in the capital forecast right now. And that project will include an off-road pedestrian cycling facility from Port Robinson Road to Highway 20.
Excellent. Now, that's great news. Thank you for that, Director. Any questions? Not seeing any. Again, Frank, every time you appear before council, you do have these grandiose plans, and that are great for the community. So again, thanks for doing the legwork on lots of this, and we'll obviously be giving it consideration at budget time. So thanks again for the committee for all their work, and for the presentation today.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. To the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Hildebrandt. Be it resolved that council receive the presentation and 2025 budget submission from Brian Beatty regarding general funding for the Pelham Active Transportation Committee for information, and that the request be referred to staff for inclusion in the budget considerations. Any other comments, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. Any other comments from council? Not seeing any. Call the vote. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That concludes the registered speakers. We do normally request any speakers from the gallery, but seeing that we have none, I think we can move on. And unless the council has anything else to say?
No, I think we want a break.
Oh, if council wishes, we can take a few minute, oh, I'm sorry, did you not vote? Sorry, I thought that there was a vote carried for that. Vote on this matter, and then we can take a short recess.
Okay. Any further questions? Not seeing any. All those in favor? None opposed. The motion carries. And as the clerk has alluded, we will take a 10-minute break. Thank you. Well, that went.
Better now than at the budget meetings.
We will